الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد أرسلنا موسى بآياتنا إلى فرعون وملئه فقال إني رسول رب العالمين. فلما جاءهم بآياتنا إذا هم منها يضحكون وما نريهم من آية إلا هي أكبر من أختها وأخذناهم بالعذاب لعلهم يرجعون. وقالوا يا أيها الساحر ادع لنا ربك بما عهد عندك إننا لمهتدون. فلما كشفنا عنهم العذاب إذا هم ينكثون. ونادى فرعون في قومه قال يا قوم أليس لي ملك مصر وهذه الأنهار تجري من تحتي أفلا تبصرون. أم أنا خير من هذا الذي هو مهين ولا يكاد يبين. فلولا ألقي عليه أسورة من ذهب أو جاء معه ملائكة مقترنين فاستخف قومه فأطاعوه إنهم كانوا قوما فاسقين. فلما آسفونا انتقمنا منهم فأغرقناهم أجمعين فجعلناهم سلفا ومثلا للآخرين. ولما ضرب ابن مريم مثلا إذا قومك منه يصدون. وقالوا أآلهتنا خير أم هو ما ضربوه لك إلا جدلا بل هم قوم خصمون. إن هو إلا عبد أنعمنا عليه وجعلناه مثلا لبني إسرائيل. ولو نشاء لجعلنا منكم ملائكة في الأرض يخلفون وإنه لعلم للساعة فلا تمترن بها واتبعون هذا صراط مستقيم. ولا يصدنكم الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. ولما جاء عيسى بالبينات قال قد جئتكم بالحكمة ولأبين لكم بعض الذي تختلفون فيه فاتقوا الله وأطيعون إن الله هو ربي وربكم فاعبدوه هذا صراط مستقيم فاختلف الأحزاب من بينهم فويل للذين ظلموا من عذاب يوم أليم هل ينظرون إلا الساعة أن تأتيهم بغتة وهم لا يشعرون صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the tawfiq to be here today. And inshallah, we'll be covering from ayah 46 till 66, what we've just recited. Today, it'll be the mention of Musa alayhi salam. It'll be all, half of it will be mentioned of Musa alayhi salam, and the last of it will be the main verse for the return of Isa alayhi salam. The first verse that we recited, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا Musa, it translates, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا, that verily we sent Musa alayhi salam with our signs, إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ وَمَلَئِهِ, to Fir'aun and his delegation, to Fir'aun and the people of the cabinet. فَقَالَ إِنِّي, and he said, إِنِّي رَسُولُ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, verily I am a messenger of the Lord of the worlds. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about Musa alayhi salam, and he said that statement when he met him, right after he was given Nubuwah after Madian. And it says that we sent him with our signs. This indicates to the 9 signs that he was given. He had 2 signs right when he was meeting Musa alayhi salam, the staff and his hand, the miracle. And then there were more signs after. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ بِآيَاتِنَا, so when he came to them with our signs, إِذَا هُمْ مِنْهَا يَضْحَكُونَ, then they started to laugh. Right, we mentioned this last time as well. And say different things. And we mentioned last time as well that this is it's a reaction that when you don't have evidences that you stoop to lowly things. So Fir'aun will say things to Musa alayhi salam like, "Oh, aren't you the kid who grew up at my house? Right? We knew you. We saw you growing up. So you're going to tell us what to do today." So these types of arguments. So they started laughing. And then the next verse, وَمَا نُرِيهِمْ مِنْ آيَاتِنَا. Actually, before I go to this verse, when we talk about the signs of Musa alayhi salam, it just reminds us of something that the Prophet ﷺ said. The miracles of Rasulullah ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that 2 miracles of his, like continual miracles. There were thousands of miracles. Even Rasulullah ﷺ, there are books actually compiled with miracles of Rasulullah ﷺ that are numerous. He had almost the same miracles that all the Anbiya had. He had all of them. But the continual ones, one is the Quran. The continual ones, one is the Quran. Just if you look at how people memorize it, how it's unchanged, it's unparalleled. And the second one is when you go for Hajj, when you're pelting the shaitan, the pebbles, they go missing after that. The ones that are accepted, they go missing. The people who's pelting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't accept, they remain. This was the second sign, it's something continual. It's only until recently, Saudi Arabia, the government, now they've made it a point that they always clear up afterwards. That's why it's makruh, when you find if there's pebbles inside, I don't think we don't even have access to that anymore, but pebbles that are inside that are still there, that means they're not accepted. That's why it's makruh to get those pebbles out. That's why you have to pick up the pebbles in Hajj from a far place. You bring it to the place of pelting. It's two continual miracles. So back to Musa alayhi salam. So his signs, وَمَا نُرِيهِمْ مِنْ آيَةٍ, that we didn't show them from our sign, إِلَّا هِيَ أَكْبَرُ مِنْ أُخْتِهَا, except that the next sign will be bigger than the one prior. So because everybody's going towards their end, right? So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows you signs, He shows you one, and the next one will be more higher, to see if you're going to accept, right? You're going to humble yourself, right? Because so the proof gets really established on you. Same thing happened with Fir'aun. He was shown one sign, then okay, it's not working. show them another sign, show them another sign. So the proof gets fixed on him that this is what he's choosing to be. The hujjah becomes tamam. وَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِالْعَذَابِ Then we took him, then we seized him with the punishment. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ So that they can return to the path. Then we took Fir'aun with punishment so that they can return to the path. We learn from this that the azab that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us, especially the one in the world, it's just to bring us back. It's not the azab in the hereafter, na'uzubillah, that's literally the azab. There's no azab of this world. The azab of this world is just to bring you back to the path. So in a way, it's also a rahmah, not for people. There's a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why it says that we showed Fir'aun all these signs, one bigger than the other. The next one we showed him, and then we gave him punishment so that they would return to the path. Then the next verse, وَقَالُوا But they said, so instead of taking heed, taking lesson from all these things, they did the opposite. وَقَالُوا And they said, يَا أَيُّهَا السَّاحِرُ O magician. يَا أَيُّهَا السَّاحِرُ ادْعُ لَنَا رَبَّكَ بِمَا عَهِدَ عِنْدَكَ A call for us, your Lord. Make dua on our behalf because of the contract you have with your Lord. Inna lamuhtadun. Indeed, we will be guided. Basically, when the azab used to come to Fir'aun, one after the other. Remember, Allah SWT mentioned different places. He would send the water storm, the frogs, the blood, there were many things that this whole community was tested with. They would go back to Musa alayhi salam, ask Musa alayhi salam to make dua. This is mentioning here that make dua to your Lord because of the contract you have with him, and then we'll be guided after that. Right? When people come across hard times, right? People make those big commitments. Like, if I get across through this, is a normal human behavior. So he would go to Musa alayhi salam with this. That pray for refuge. When Fir'aun used to get stuck, he used to say, pray for refuge. Allah SWT rescues them. Every time Allah SWT rescues them, he goes right back to where he started from. It kept happening. And then we see the pattern that Allah SWT allowed him to live. He always was a king. He lived on. Right? Many years after meeting Musa alayhi salam. Going, and then, his final fate. Then the next verse, فَلَمَّا كَشَفْنَا عَنْهُ الْعَذَابَ Then when we relieved him of that punishment, إِذَا هُمْ يَنكُثُونَ Then he used to break his promise. This is what we were just talking about. Then he would go nakatha. Nakatha in Arabic means to break promise. Going back to your old ways. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not make that a reality for us. Then whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remember, I was speaking on my Jummah, no, not this Jummah, but the previous Jummah, right? I was speaking about nurturing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala nurtures us. So when he nurtures us, we need to be nurtured, get nurtured, learn to become different. Don't take steps back. You have to keep getting nurtured, keep moving forward. Man's mistake is that he goes back. He started, distrusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All along, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see you trust him. And you're being nurtured to trust him. Next verse. وَنَادَى فِرْعَوْنَ Also, these punishments that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used to send them, they used to be very specific for the people of Fir'aun. So the people of with Musa alayhi salam, they weren't afflicted with it. It's very unique punishments that they would just see, just the people of Fir'aun, they were being tormented with it. Like, for example, the azab of the blood, like every drink would just turn into blood. So then some of the people of Fir'aun used to go to the people of Musa alayhi salam, the qawm of Musa alayhi salam, that can we have some water from your storage, your water storage, and then they would take it, then it would turn into blood again. So just like very specific. And then when the tufan, Allah SWT mentions this in different places, right? The 9 signs. These are from his signs. When the tufan come, only the people of Fir'aun, their homes used to be flooded, not the home of the people with Musa alayhi salam, the qawm of Musa alayhi salam. وَنَادَى فِرْعَوْنُ فِي قَوْمِهِ And also keep in mind that Fir'aun and Misr and Egypt, this is the superpower of that time. This is the superpower of the time. They're the strongest. وَنَادَى فِرْعَوْنَ And Fir'aun proclaimed فِي قَوْمِهِ in his people. He said, يَا قَوْمِ O my people, أَلَيْسَ لِي مُلْكُ مِصْرَ That isn't Egypt mine? وَهَذِهِ الْأَنْهَارُ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِي And these rivers that flow underneath me. أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ Don't you see? Because they're hearing the speech of, and remember, compared to Fir'aun, like Musa alayhi salam is just an individual. Also, that's something, Keep in mind, I mean, he has all the army, he's got the whole country on his side, and on the other side, you just have Musa and Harun, who are just two individuals. But it's just that the reason he can't, Fir'aun, Allah, because Nabis are blessed with ru'b. They're blessed with an awe. Like you're not allowed to, and that is that you're not easily able to overcome a Nabi like that. Right? Like Rasulullah had such a ru'b. Right? Countries away, people would put fear in their heart when they would think of doing something to Rasulullah. Same thing. So Fir'aun was just left to making some arguments, and he was just trying to make sure that Musa making these arguments in his kingdom, that he can't win the public over. So the Quran talks about the debates, that Fir'aun, Musa says something, and then Fir'aun tries to counter it, making sure the public attention doesn't get too much that way, bring it back to him. So he would say that, oh people, isn't Egypt all mine? That was his evidence. Isn't Egypt all mine? And all these rivers, don't you see? Am I better? Min hadha alladhi huwa mahin, then this one who's worthless. Sometimes these are the exact words. Min hadha alladhi huwa mahin. Mahin means worthless. Like, do you want to choose me? I'm king, and right? He's claimed he's God. Do you want me or do you want Musa alayhi salam? Worthless. Wala yakadu yubin. Can't even express himself. Wala yakadu yubin. Remember, Musa alayhi salam had a impediment, something that used to block his speech. Musa alayhi salam, which was a miracle. Not a defect for Musa alayhi salam. Because Musa alayhi salam, when he had that, it was a miracle. There's a whole story behind how he was able to speak clearly. He heard his tongue. Again, not going into that story of how he heard his tongue at the moment. That's why when he was given prophethood, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're making me a prophet to speak to people? I can't even speak. I can't even express myself. And oh, my brother, he's very good at expressing himself. So make him come with me so he can help people understand what I'm trying to say. So that's why Fir'aun is pointing it out. Oh, you want to follow me, who owns everything, or a person who can't even express himself? Then the next verse. فَلَوْلَا أُلْقِيَ عَلَيْهِ أَسْوِرَةٌ ذَهَبٍ. That if he was true, then Fir'aun makes his next argument. That let's just say hypothetically Musa alayhi salam is right. Then he should have been wearing bracelets of gold. Or جَاءَ مَعَهُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ مُقْتَرِنِينَ. Or he should have had bodyguards. He should have had like angel bodyguards next to him. That was like, trying to say that is a sign of truth. You have bodyguards next to you, or if you have bracelets of gold. I'm not sure if bracelets of gold is a big thing now, but in the olden days, it used to be a big sign of status. Whoever has the bracelets of gold. He doesn't have bracelets of gold. Maybe Fir'aun did, but he didn't have it. Musa. So he's pointing that out, that look, he doesn't have bracelets of gold. That doesn't have any angels accompanying him. So how are we going to accept it from him that he's speaking on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? فَاسْتَخَفَّ قَوْمَهُ. So the next verse, everybody's following? فَاسْتَخَفَّ قَوْمَهُ. Basically that means, istakhaf, it means become light. Like he fooled his people. Meaning everything that all the discussion was that, like he fooled his people, istakhaffa qawmahu, meaning that his public, they were very touched by whatever Musa alayhi salam was saying, but then him trying to water all that down, he got it back to normal again. And then people were becoming very serious in listening to Musa alayhi salam by him putting those arguments in there, and everybody's like, okay, yeah, let's think about that. Yeah, Fir'aun has the whole Egypt, and then he's got the golden bracelets. فَأَطَاعُوهُ. So they started to obey him. Right? The people whose minds were just about to change because of the arguments of Musa. They're not just mentioned here, right? Arguments of Musa are, these discussions are mentioned throughout the Quran. And then, but him saying that, it made them balanced again. إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا قَوْمًا فَاسِقِينَ. Really, they are also a sinful people. One lesson we learn here, that whenever you have a tyrant ruler, then you have to oppose him in your own capacity. The lowest capacity is in your heart. At least realize that it's wrong, right? If you don't stand up to somebody who's doing wrong, even to that bit, then you're also sinful. Unless there's somebody's doing wrong and you become completely numb to it. That's not, some people are doing wrong and they're ruling, and then you become numb to it. Like you're like agreeing with everything you're doing at this point. Then you are part of the sin. Although you've got nothing to do with ruling, but you are sinful with the tyrant. So that therefore we learn that from this wording of the Quran, that they obeyed him, then they became a sinful people. So because they were just agreeing with Fir'aun again, now they're just as sinful as Fir'aun. They might be just general public who doesn't know better, who doesn't care, right? But now you are just equivalent to Fir'aun because you agree with him. فَلَمَّا آسَفُونَ. So when they angered us more, when they provoked our anger, Allah SWT says that, we gave them signs, we gave them so much time that they had with Musa alayhi salam. Then when we became angered, فَانْتَقَمْنَا مِنْهُمْ, then we avenged them. فَأَغْرَقْنَاهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ, and then we drowned all of them. Right? That was the end of the story. We drowned all of them. فَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ سَلَفٍ, then we made them something of the past, salaf, something that happened. وَمَثَلًا, and an example, لِلْآخِرِينَ, for the people to come. Then the next verse. Now here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts making mention of Isa alayhi salam. This was a discussion about Musa alayhi salam up to here. Now from the next point on is about Isa alayhi salam. وَلَمَّا ضُرِبَ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ مَثَلًا, that when we give an example of the son of Maryam as an example, the Quran is saying that when the Quran used to tell the mushrikeen of Makkah about Isa alayhi salam, that the son of Maryam, مثلا, as an example of a Nabi, إِذَا قَوْمُكَ, then your people, minhu yasiddun, they used to get really excited. Excited in a bad way, not in a good way. See, one is getting excited in a good way, right? Like, oh yes, he's speaking what he said. They used to get excited in the wrong way. Why did the mushrikeen of Makkah get excited in the wrong way? So the discussion about this is a couple of places in the Quran. Because Prophet ﷺ used to always say that, all the idols that you worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those idols will be in Jahannam. Right? He used to say that. And the mushrikeen of Makkah knew that Christians worship Isa alayhi salam. So whenever the Prophet ﷺ used to bring up Isa alayhi salam, they used to get excited. They go, oh yeah, Isa alayhi salam. They were just arguing for the sake of argument. They were trying to say that, on the one hand you say all the idols are going to Jahannam, and Christians worship Isa alayhi salam, so he's their idol, so he's also going to Jahannam. You understand? Yes. Yeah. Which is again nothing solid. Of course, the Quran clarified, right? Quran clarifies that of course that wasn't the teachings of Isa alayhi salam to worship him. The Christianity that we see today is not based on the teachings of Isa alayhi salam. All their theology, their aqidah is based on Paul. Paul was one of the, maybe a distant student, not a direct, maybe a little distant. He changed all the teaching, all the Trinity, right? Maryam alayhi salam being the God, all the teachings that you see there, all the Christian theology, even all the sects that they have, they're all foundation is back to Paul. Christianity today, but the Christianity of Isa alayhi salam is the one we believe in, right? That was true. Not the Christianity of Paul, right? That the Christian world is today, okay? So anyways, yeah, mushrikeen of Makkah, right? They were just making arguments for the sake of arguments. That wasn't really an argument. Right? Allah was saying the idols are going, doesn't mean that Isa alayhi salam is going. Isa alayhi salam wasn't an idol. People are doing wrong. That doesn't make Isa alayhi salam wrong. So this was just an argument of theirs. وَقَالُوا, and they used to say, أَآلِهَتُنَا خَيْرٌ أَمْ هُوَ. Then they would take that argument further. They say, are our gods, because the mushriks used to worship idols, right? They would tell, are our gods better, or is he, Isa alayhi salam? Comparing their gods to Isa alayhi salam. Just again, see, I know you guys all wondering what kind of argument is that. Yeah, but there was no argument. And we learn the nature of falsehood, that not every argument that falsehood makes is a true argument. It's not based on logic. Even today you have arguments floating around. Don't take any argument serious. Everybody's got an argument, but there's proper argument, solid evidence, evidence-based argument, and there's argument for the sake of argument. So this would be an argument for the sake of argument. مَا ضَرَبُوهُ لَكَ إِلَّا جَدَلًا. That's what that means. مَا ضَرَبُوهُ لَكَ إِلَّا جَدَلًا. An argument for the sake of argument. That they don't make it for you except they're just trying to make an argument. That has no meaning. Like, what's the connection between all the idols that are going to Jahannam and then Isa alayhi salam? There's no connection between these two things. بَلْ هُمْ قَوْمٌ خَصِمُونَ. Rather, they are just a quarrelsome people. Quran calls them, they're just like argumentative. Just like, maybe say, hard-headed. And somebody who just, somebody who you talk to and they're not going to ever change. They're just set on something, doesn't have to be true, but they're just firm on it. Argument like that. But hum qawmun khasimun. There are people who make like argument for the sake of argument. They're not bothered with the truth. In huwa, now clarifying Isa. Now that mushrikeen of Makkah brought that up, bringing up Isa alayhi salam. So clarifying Isa, in huwa illa abd. Isa alayhi salam was not except a servant. An'amna alayh. We bestowed our grace upon him, right? We had favored him in so many ways. Nabi of Allah, he was born without a father. So many gifts he had. وَجَعَلْنَاهُ, and we made him mathal. Here the word mathal, normally mathal means example. Here mathal means Nabi. We made him a prophet for the Bani Israel. This language is very important. Usually when you see other prophets, it's mentioned they were sent to this qawm. Every prophet is mentioned like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Prophet in the Quran that he sent to all of mankind. Ya ayyuhan nas. Then he tells you you're prophet for all mankind. Every other prophet was sent for a particular people. So this verse is also indicating that we made him a Nabi for Bani Israel, not for all of mankind. So today when you have missionaries going all around the world preaching Christianity, they're actually breaking, they're going against their prophet. Even Isa alayhi salam won't speak to non-Bani Israel. And this is, even this part is in the Bible. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves, for those people who seek the truth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I mean, of course, we cannot accuse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he doesn't make the truth clear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the truth very, very clear. Like for example, this verse in the Bible has, even till today, although the Bible has changes to it, but you find verses that will shock a person. That could be a whole seminar in itself. Just bring those verses from the Bible that points to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that points to the teachings of Isa alayhi salam, and it's still there. And that's a very remarkable sign. Just like when we speak to false sect groups, like when we speak to Qadianis, how do we do it? How to tell a Qadiani that what usually you do? You don't have to pick up the Quran. You just pick up the teachings of his own. Right? Same thing with Christian. And it's like that with every other deen. There's something like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left. Like when as Muslims, when you counter another, you don't counter them with your book. Because if we counter them with our book, they can make an argument, oh, that's your book. But our book says otherwise. We say, no, we're going to counter you from your book. Meaning we're saying that from your book, you're wrong. See how big the argument of Islam is? Even for the Qadianis, we're not going to use the Quran. We're just going to say, no, we're going to counter you with your book, not ours. Because if we're using ours, then we're biased. Similarly with the Christians, if we say, oh, the Quran says don't worship, then the Christians will say, oh, you're biased. Our book says it does. No, we'll counter you with your book. Do you get it? And it's like that with others as well. Jewish will counter from their book. Everything will counter from their book. That you're not upon your book. There's contradictions in your book. So that's a huge sign of this revelation, truthfulness of it. So let me give you a verse from the Bible. I don't have the quote reference of it, but basically in the Bible, this verse is still there. That a woman came to Isa alayhi salam and she asked, guide me to the truth. I'm in darkness. And he said, no, I can't guide you. I can't tell you anything. Because I'm only sent to Bani Israel, and she wasn't from the Bani Israel. And she started weeping. But tell me, you'll be guided. Until I think some of the other people around Isa alayhi salam, however way Allah, the Bible has it, he asked them, tell her something. And I think Isa alayhi salam told her something. But he's very strict. And there are many verses in the Bible that shows how Isa alayhi salam, when he's approached by non-Bani Israel, he said, no, I'm not going to help you. I'm only sent for Bani Israel. Then the next verse, وَلَوْ نَشَاءُ لَجَعَلْنَا, and if we wanted, we would have made for you angels فِي الْأَرْضِ يَخْلُفُونَ, in the earth who would have succeeded you. This verse could mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead of us, he could have had angels who succeeded him. Who instead of us, the khilafat, who's the vicegerent, who's representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the earth is man. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have replaced us with the angels here instead, if he wanted. Then the next verse, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ, verily he, Isa alayhi salam, is a sign of the Yawm al-Qiyamah. Isa alayhi salam is a sign of Yawm al-Qiyamah. This is the main verse about the belief that Isa alayhi salam will come back. This verse. Indeed, because we were speaking about Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, he is a sign of the hour. فَلَا تَمْتَرُنَّ بِهَا, so don't have doubts in it, and follow me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ, this is the straight path. وَلَا يَسُدَّنَّكُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ, and don't let shaitan prevent you. It's so amazing that these birds here, that the whole world, this like a big part of the world is just on this debate, right? Did Isa alayhi salam, is he going to come back? Did he die? The whole world, this is right, for the Christian world, also for the Qadianis, it's a big issue right here. And look how clearly it's stated here. That don't let shaitan, look, and then it says don't doubt in it. Why would it say don't doubt in it? It should have just said, he's a sign for Yawm al-Qiyamah. It says don't doubt in it. Meaning that your belief should be firm in it, that he's going to come back. And then don't let shaitan prevent you. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. He is a clear enemy to you, shaitan. Now here, we're going to have the discussion about the return of Isa alayhi salam. So everyone's ready? I'm going to give you a lot of notes here about the return of Isa alayhi salam. The return of Isa alayhi salam is a very integral belief. If any person does not believe that Isa alayhi salam will return, you've lost your iman. Iman is contingent upon you have to believe, and this is one verse, and there's many more. So I'm about to give you the many more. Ready for it? It's not there, but I'll give it to you here, okay? There's one book written by Allama Anwar Shah Kashmiri, rahmatullahi alayh. Who is Allama Anwar Shah? He was a muhaddith. Who is Allama Anwar Shah? My father, rahmatullahi alayh. His teacher's name was Allama Yusuf Binori, rahmatullahi. Usually it's the habit when people go in the field of Islamic knowledges, then when they study the final hadith, they study with the biggest hadith master. Everybody teaches all the sciences, but the hadith is studied by the master of your city. In my father's times, it was Allama Yusuf Binori, rahmatullah. His teacher was Allama Anwar Shah Kashmiri, we're quoting. Okay? Allama Anwar Shah Kashmiri, he wrote a book on it, The Return of Isa alayhi salam, and he put all the evidences in it. Put all the verses, and he put all the ahadith, and there's so many ahadith. So for Muslims, it's a very crystal clear belief. So let me just share some of those. One reference, the main reference, if you want to, if somebody ever wants to know the return of Isa alayhi salam, is the one we're doing right now. Okay, so you want to remember this. We're on Surah Az-Zukhruf, verse 61. Right? Surah Az-Zukhruf, verse 61 says that he is a sign for Yawm al-Qiyamah. Don't have a doubt in it. La tamtarunna biha. All right, now let me give you some other verses. The other verses are, it says in the Quran, وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ, that verily the people of the book, إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ, they'll believe in him before his death. Before his death. So this is also reference to Isa alayhi salam, the tafseer of that verse. That who is this one that all the Ahl Kitab? He will unite Ahl Kitab. When he comes, there will be a golden era. Right? Muslims, he'll come to defeat Dajjal. Right? So his coming is very integral belief. Allama Anwar Shah Kashmiri also says that in his book. That's his conclusion. He brings so many packs with the hadith. We're gonna roughly go over those hadith right now, okay? But again, we need to get our hand, make sure our belief is very strong in that, right? If you have any doubts in this belief, and Muslims, the evidence is overwhelming about the coming of Isa alayhi salam. They're overwhelming. So who denies the coming of Isa alayhi salam? I mean, the Ahmadiyya Qadiani group, so which is a very tiny group, right? They deny it. So. But then the verses are very, 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 very clear. Actually, their founder, Mirza Ghulam, he made so many claims. If you wanted to just make because we believe Isa alayhi salam is coming back. He said he's Isa alayhi salam. So we never said that there was going to be a copy of Isa alayhi salam coming, or he's going to transform. He's not going to be born. We said throughout the hadith, it always says nuzul, he'll come down. We never said Isa alayhi salam. Because for example, anybody who says he's Isa alayhi salam, we're waiting for Isa alayhi salam, right? Let's say somebody was to trick us and go, oh, I'm Isa alayhi salam. We'll just ask him, were you born? Where's your mother and father? That's it. If his mother and father is there, then that's it. He's not Isa alayhi salam. Isa salam, he's going to come down. But Mirza Ghulam, he had all kinds of things. He's Mahdi, he's Allah, he's superior to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all that. And that obviously that's kufr. To prove the kufr of Qadianism, you have hundreds of ways. This is just one. To prove the kufr of Qadianism, you've got hundreds of ways. We're just giving you one. Okay, because Muslims have throughout our history. But Qadianis is an external kufr who tries to propose this, that we say I'm not coming. But there's also within us. There's some Muslims also who sometimes get deceived. Shaitan tricks them. So-called Muslims. But obviously, if you'll doubt this, and any person, and now we made it clear that it will be a decision between kufr and Islam. Do you believe that he's coming, or you don't believe he's coming? have to believe because too many ahadith. So, in Islam, you can't reject one verse of the Quran, one hadith. And for the coming of Isa alayhi salam, we have, a couple of verses, and we have many ahadiths for the subject of the return of Isa alayhi salam. Imam Abu Hanifa, when he also wrote a book on fiqh, belief. His book on belief is called Fiqh al-Akbar. He wrote on the coming of Isa alayhi salam. Throughout the Islamic history, everybody knows it's a mainstream Muslim belief that there's the return of Isa alayhi salam. So everybody's solid in it now. You're not going to get deceived by someone on some social media. Okay? Don't be deceived. Whether it's within us or whether it's somebody from the external. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to preserve this faith. Belief. Beliefs are important. So whether it's an internal person who's claiming he's a Muslim, whether it's a kafir who's proposing these ideas, we don't have time for that because it's very explicit in our holy book. Now coming to the hadith, let me tell you a hadith. I gave you how many verses I gave you? So we have one verse here. I gave you the verse that all the Ahl Kitab will believe in him. That's verse number 2. The third verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بَرَّفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him up to himself. That's number 3, okay? And now number 4, there's many hadith. I just brought some here for you, okay? There's one hadith that mentions the Prophet ﷺ said that your Imam and Hazrat Isa alayhi salam will come. Your Imam and Hazrat Isa alayhi salam will come. What was he referring to? Your Imam. Meaning your Imam Mahdi. And Isa alayhi salam will come. Again, these are long hadith. I'm just giving you like a little bite from it. There's a hadith that mentions about Damascus. Where will Isa alayhi salam come down? In Damascus, in a masjid in Damascus, near Palestine. It talks about his landing. It talks about who's going to lead the prayer. I mean, the signs are overwhelming. I mean, all the descriptions. The death place. Where would Isa alayhi salam pass away? Isa alayhi salam and Mahdi will work together. For everything they need to do, they're going to work together. In Mi'raj, there's one hadith that talks about Mi'raj, that when Rasulullah went up and his conversations with the prophets, and Prophet had a conversation with Isa alayhi salam, in which he mentioned, so this is a hadith where Isa alayhi salam is saying that I'll come down. When I come down, then we'll do the following tasks. And also remember, when we say that finality of prophethood, that prophethood has come to an end, Isa alayhi salam coming back is not a new prophet, because he's already born. We're saying there's no more new prophets to be born. There's another hadith that some people will continue to struggle on the path of truth, meaning that jihad will continue. Some people will continue jihad all the way until Isa alayhi salam comes. There's a hadith about description of his face, how he looked. Even when he comes down, that his hair will be curly, look like he just took a shower when he's coming down. Also, he'd come down with the angels. He'll come up to the minaret, and then a stair will be given to him. And the reason that is, like, if he came down all the way from heavens all the way till the minaret, I mean, you could just get a ride down. You don't need stairs at that point. The lesson to be learned is that he's coming from the domain of no means to a domain of means. You get it? In the world is a world of means, right? So that's why the ladder will be put for him. He'll use a ladder to come down. When he comes into this world, Isa alayhi salam, that when, it'll be a golden era, and because his specific job will be the Dajjal will come, and he will be the only one who will be able to confront him. There will be no jizya. Some Islamic rulings will change. No jizya. Barakah will return. There'll be a lot of blessing. The world will become a very peaceful place. All the evil elements will be removed from the world. Sometimes people have a question about this. Oh, when he comes down, which madhab will be? Will he be a Hanafi? This question is also nonsense. It's not important. I think some people end up saying, oh yeah, he's Hanafi. No, he doesn't have to be. Isa alayhi salam, because he's a Nabi, and Imam Abu Hanifa was a wali, a saint, and a prophet is superior to a saint. So when he comes, then he'll do ijtihad himself. He can interpret on his own because he's a Nabi. He's very qualified to know the straight path. So he'll be a mujtahid of his own. So you don't have to answer that he'll be Hanafi. You're going to say he's a mujtahid of his own. Like he'll deduce himself. That's it. So these were some little pieces. Actually, this was all written in a book, and then the scholar Sheikh Abdul Rahim, I got it from his clip. He put these out there with detail, And I've summarized that. So it's in a book with detail, then he summarized it, and then I summarized it further for you. Yeah. But inshallah, you want to get your hands on one of these if you ever find a friend or someone, who's having na'uzubillah, got doubts. It is people out there creating fitna, right? People are out there creating fitna for Muslims to trip on this belief, the Quran. And another thing is, like the whole Christian theology is also based on this idea, Isa alayhi salam, or their wrong thoughts about Isa alayhi salam, how he passed, where he is now. And also you have, so the coming of Isa alayhi salam, the wisdom of him coming back, many wisdoms the scholars mention. One of them is just this point, because this is a big contentious issue, right? Muslims say about Isa alayhi salam coming back, and our true belief about Isa alayhi salam. And then the other scriptures, people have misinformation about Isa alayhi salam, and then the Quran is talking about this truth about Isa alayhi salam, that he's this great person, don't worship him when he's coming back. So when he comes back, that's what he's going to clarify, just to further clarify. The debate is already ended because the Quran is very clear. The verses of the Quran are so clear. So there is no debate left for, Qadianism or Qadiani or Christianity. There's no debate left for them after this book has come. But humans are humans. They're going to continue their thing. But then Isa alayhi salam is going to come, and that's going to be another blow. Like, as the Quran wasn't enough, he himself is going to come, and when he comes, that's why the people of the book are going to turn to him. And then after that, it says, don't let shaitan deceive you. Just like how these verses are clear, if you read all the verses about this topic, you'll find them, they're very, very explicit. If somebody's sincere from those groups coming into Islam, inshallah, they seek truth, and we appeal to them that they seek the truth and read it earnestly, and then they shall be guided to the truth, inshallah. Then after that, وَلَمَّا جَاءَ عِيسَى. So when Isa alayhi salam will come with the proofs. Oh, when Isa alayhi salam came with the proofs. Not when he will come, when he came with the proofs. When he came, was he in the world? بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ. When he came with the proofs, he said, قَدْ جِئْتُكُمْ بِالْحِكْمَةِ. I have come to you with wisdom. And Nabi comes into the world with wisdom, right? He brings revelation. Revelation is something, divine knowledge. It's something that man needs that you can't figure out with your logic, right? It brings that data that you can't figure out with your science, with your logic. It fills that gap. It's not that, something above your logic and senses. So he then also Isa alayhi salam had come with the hikmah. وَلِيُبَيِّنَ لَكُمْ, and that I clarify for you بَعْدَ الَّذِي تَخْتَلِفُونَ فِي, some of that which you deferred in. And a prophet always comes to clarify anything that people do corruption to the religion that has come. So the prophet comes to clarify all that. So Isa alayhi salam had come to the Shariat of Musavi, the Sharia of Musa alayhi salam had some corruptions in it. People had misunderstanding of the worships and things. That's why Isa alayhi salam had come. He's come to clarify for his Christian community, tell them that this is where you're wrong. Give them hikmah and clarify for them where they're. Fattaqullah. He told them that, hey, my people, I come to you with wisdom, and I come to you to clarify anything that you have ikhtilaf in. Nabi of Allah is there to clarify for you. Fattaqullah, so fear Allah, wa ati'uni, and obey me. Fear Allah and obey me. This is what Isa alayhi salam said when he came. Inna Allah huwa rabbi wa rabbukum. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is my Lord and your Lord, so worship Him. Haza siratul mustaqim. This is the straight path. This is what Isa alayhi salam said. This is the same as mentioned in the Bible. You find verses like this, Allah is my Lord and your Lord. You find verses similar to this in the Bible as well. I was mentioning that point about the opposite to Islam, other belief systems. The way we counter them is not telling them something from the Quran. We can. Quran is very clear about belief systems and who is Allah and all the realities of life, but we counter them through their own books. You guys may have heard of the name Ahmed Didat, right? Who used to debate with the Christians. Rahmatullahi alayhi. Allah have rahmah upon him, right? He did great work in the field of Christianity, trying to bring Christians to. He would say, you'd often find in his debates, he would just challenge the Christians. He would just say, find me one place where he said, I'm Lord and worship me. Because the whole Christian world is based on just worshiping Lord Jesus. So he would just say, I challenge you, right? And almost every other clip of videos of his, if you watch, you find left and right goes, I challenge you. Just find in somewhere he says, I'm the Lord, worship me, right? Isn't all religion, right? Like the worship is the main foundation. All teachings come afterwards. And they can't. that goes all over the world, understanding this version of the Bible or that version of the Bible. Just find somewhere where it says, I'm Lord and worship me. Like a simple statement, and they can't. The whole can show them that. I mean, like the truth shouldn't be that hard, but you have to, you jump through loops to prove something. Like our Quran is not clear about who we're worshiping, right? It's very clear about who we're worshiping. So these are signs. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring all of us closer to the truth. فَاخْتَلَفَ الْأَحْزَابُ مِنْ بَيْنِهِمْ. Then groups differed between them. But even when Isa alayhi salam was there, there's already sects already being created when the Nabi is already there. People are differing from, when a Nabi is there, then you don't need to defer in anything because the Prophet is there. But that's man, right? That's man. They're still doing ikhtilaf, although the Nabi is there. He's there to clarify, to make sure there's no ikhtilaf. فَاخْتَلَفَ الْأَحْزَابُ مِنْ بَيْنِهِمْ. See, when people don't want to follow the truth, right? When a Nabi is there, you're not going to be guided. So there were sects that were already there. فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا. So woe be to those who do zulm, of the punishment of a very painful day. So Allah SWT is saying, oh, you're so evil that a prophet is going to be in the world and you still can have ikhtilaf. We still don't get it. Then, woe is for you, meaning hell is for you. And warning of a painful day. And final verse for today's dars. هَلْ يَنْظُرُونَ. Are they all waiting? Meaning who behave this way. That even when Nabi comes, with these clear clarifications come, and you still gotta pretend like you don't know the truth. Are they waiting illa sa'a? Are they waiting for the Yawm al-Qiyamah? And Yawm al-Qiyamah is is relative. Our Yawm al-Qiyamah is when you die. That every human's, that's a smaller Yawm al-Qiyamah is when you die. And then there's one global Yawm al-Qiyamah when the whole earth will die. So are they waiting for Yawm al-Qiyamah? And ta'tiyahum baghtah, that it comes to them all of a sudden. وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And they are not, and they will not even imagine it. So we learn from this that when does death come? That you can't even imagine it when it comes. So this verse is like a threat to them, that you're going to defer even when clear teachings are there, even when your Nabi is there, you're still going to turn into sects. What are you waiting for? Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanallahi al-azim.